The warship hung in space like a metal moon. Inside, war tactician Zrelkoth stood before a display showing a small blue planet. His gray skin rippled with satisfaction. This was world number 848. Another easy victory for the Valthek Dominion. For 3,000 years, the Valthek had conquered their way across the galaxy. They had crushed warrior races. They had defeated species with weapons that could crack planets. They had even subjugated a civilization that could manipulate time itself. None of it mattered. The Valthek always won. They had the numbers, the experience, and the cold logic of a species that never stopped expanding. Earth would fall in 72 hours. Maybe less. Zrelkoth's secondary eyes focused on the tactical display. The planet's defenses were laughable. Nuclear weapons, crude dirty bombs that poisoned the very ground they fought over. Chemical rockets that barely escaped the planet's gravity well. Radio transmissions that leaked into space like a child shouting in the dark. Pathetic, he muttered. His aide, a younger Valthek named Kormeth, nodded in agreement. The initial scans are complete, war tactician. Population approximately 8 billion. Divided into nearly 200 tribal governments. Multiple languages. No unified command structure. They still fight among themselves. Zrelkoth's mouth split into what passed for a Valthek smile. Divided prey was easy prey. His species had learned this lesson on 847 previous worlds. Begin standard protocol, he commanded. Intercept their communications. Map their military installations. Identify their population centers. We moved to subjugation phase in 48 hours. Kormeth hesitated. War tactician, there is one unusual element. The volume of their transmissions is excessive. They broadcast constantly. Entertainment, news, personal messages. The data stream is enormous. Irrelevant, Zrelkoth said. Assign a junior analyst to sort through it. Focus on military communications only. I want to know where their weapons are, not what their civilians chatter about. In a smaller chamber 3 levels below the command deck, junior analyst Teknor received his assignment with a sinking feeling. Communication analysis was usually simple. Military channels here, government frequencies there, civilian chatter everywhere else. But the humans were different. They broadcasted everything. Everything. Teknor's workstation hummed as it processed terabytes of human data. Television shows, music, something called the Internet, news broadcasts, movies, books converted to audio, video recordings of humans doing trivial tasks. It was chaos. It was noise. It was utterly unlike anything Teknor had seen from 847 other conquered species. He started with the obvious military frequencies. Human military communications were surprisingly sophisticated, though their encryption was easy to break. Nothing concerning. Standard defensive postures. No evidence they even knew the Valthek fleet was watching them. But then Teknor found something odd in the civilian broadcasts. Humans had an entire category of entertainment called science fiction. Stories about space, about aliens, about wars among the stars. Teknor pulled up a random sample, a film about humans fighting insect-like aliens. He watched, confused, as the humans in the story fought desperately against overwhelming odds. They lost cities. Millions died, and yet they kept fighting. The movie ended with the humans winning through cleverness and sacrifice. Strange. Most species created stories about harmony and peace. The Valthek themselves preferred historical records and tactical studies. But humans seemed obsessed with conflict. Teknor pulled up another sample. This one showed humans fighting machines they had created. Again, terrible losses. Again, desperate struggle. Again, human victory. Another film. Humans versus zombies. Walking corpses of their own dead. Another. Humans versus aliens who wanted to harvest their bodies. Another. Humans versus their own gods. Another. Humans versus reality itself falling apart. Every story followed the same pattern. Humans faced impossible odds. Humans suffered terrible losses. Humans won anyway, or if they lost, they died fighting. Teknor felt the first whisper of unease. He pushed it aside and continued his work. He cataloged human military assets, noted their defensive positions, and prepared a standard analysis report. The humans were no threat. Their technology was primitive. Their society was fragmented. They would surrender after the first demonstration of Valthek power. They always did, but the stories bothered him. Why did humans spend so much time and effort creating fantasies about warfare? Why did they imagine fighting aliens when they had never encountered any? Why were they so obsessed with survival against impossible odds? He decided to add a footnote to his report. Nothing major. Just a note that human civilian culture showed unusual fixation on conflict scenarios. Probably irrelevant, but worth mentioning for the xenopsychology team. Technor submitted his report and waited. Above him, the Valthek fleet moved into position. Conquest ships formed a blockade pattern around Earth. Troop carriers prepared their landing forces. Communication jamming arrays powered up, ready to cut Earth off from any hope of outside help. In the command center, Zrelkoth reviewed Technor's report. He skimmed past the footnote without much interest. Every species had its quirks. The important facts were clear. Earth had approximately 2 million active military personnel, scattered nuclear arsenals, and conventional weapons that posed no threat to Valthek armor. The invasion would begin at dawn, Earth time. The Valthek would demonstrate their power by disabling all human satellites simultaneously. Then they would broadcast their surrender demand in every human language. After that, they would wait for the inevitable capitulation. It had worked 847 times before. It would work again. Zrelkoth allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Soon Earth's resources would flow to the Dominion. Its population would be integrated into the workforce. Its history would become a footnote in Valthek records. Another world. Another victory. Another step toward total galactic domination. He had no way of knowing that 3 levels below, junior analyst Technor was still watching human broadcasts, and the unease in his mind was growing into something that felt uncomfortably like fear. Technor could not sleep. In the Valthek rest cycle, his mind kept returning to the human broadcasts. Something was wrong. He felt it in his bones, though he could not explain it to himself, let alone to his superiors. He returned to his workstation and began a deeper analysis. This time, he did not just sample random human entertainment. He studied it systematically. He looked for patterns. What he found disturbed him more with each passing hour. Humans had been telling stories about warfare for their entire recorded history. Clay tablets from 5,000 years ago described battles. Ancient texts detailed military strategies. Medieval manuscripts illustrated siege weapons. Modern humans created entire industries around simulating combat. Technor discovered something called video games, interactive simulations where humans practiced fighting. They did this for fun, for entertainment. In their leisure time, humans chose to pretend to kill each other, kill aliens, kill monsters, kill anything that moved. He found human history records next. Every civilization, every era, every continent. War, and more war. Humans fought over land. They fought over resources. They fought over ideas. They fought over gods. They fought over insults. They fought because their leaders were bored. The analyst pulled up a human concept called total war. He read the definition with growing horror. It meant warfare where entire societies mobilized, where every factory produced weapons, where every citizen contributed to the war effort, where the distinction between soldier and civilian disappeared because everyone was part of the fight. Humans had done this multiple times. Recently, Technor found records of something called World War II. In less than 6 years, humans had killed over 70 million of their own kind. They had built weapons factories that operated every hour of every day. They had conscripted entire generations. They had firebombed their own cities to deny them to enemies. They had invented weapons that could vaporize entire populations in seconds. And then, impossibly, they had stopped. They had pulled back from total annihilation. They had rebuilt. And they had kept all the weapons just in case. This led Technor to the most disturbing discovery of all. Humans had a concept called spite. It meant doing something harmful to yourself just to hurt your enemy more. It meant fighting not because you could win, but because losing without fighting was unthinkable. He found a human phrase. If I'm going down, I'm taking you with me. It appeared in their entertainment, their history, and their military doctrine. Technor worked through the night cycle, compiling his findings. By morning, he had a report that terrified him. He requested an immediate meeting with war tactician Zrelkoth. The war tactician did not look pleased to be disturbed. His command chamber was busy with final invasion preparations. Fleet commanders reported readiness. Troop carriers confirmed deployment schedules. Everything was proceeding perfectly. Junior analyst Zrelkoth said coldly, "You requested this meeting. It had better be important. We commence operations in 12 hours. Technor's hands shook as he activated his presentation. War tactician, I believe we should reconsider the invasion of Earth. The humans are not what they appear to be. Murmurs rippled through the assembled officers. Reconsider? The Valthek Dominion did not reconsider. They conquered. It was what they did. Srelkoth's eyes narrowed. Explain, quickly. The humans have been at war continuously for their entire history, Technor began. They have never achieved global peace, not once. Somewhere on their planet, at every moment, humans are fighting other humans. Many species have violent pasts, Srelkoth interrupted. Civilization suppresses these primitive instincts. We see no evidence of major conflict on Earth currently. Because they are not currently facing an external threat, Technor said. But war tactician, they practice warfare constantly. For entertainment. They run combat simulations in virtual environments. They study historical battles. They write detailed analyses of military strategies. They create fiction about fighting aliens, and these fictions are wildly popular. Fiction is irrelevant, Srelkoth said dismissively. Is it? Technor pulled up a display showing human languages. They have 847 words for different types of conflict in their major languages. War, battle, fight, skirmish, clash, combat, struggle, each with distinct meanings. They have a more sophisticated vocabulary for violence than we do. This caused a stir among the officers. The Valthek prided themselves on their military precision. The idea that a primitive species had better language for warfare was insulting. They have nearly destroyed themselves multiple times. Technor continued, his confidence growing. They invented nuclear weapons and immediately used them on each other. Then they built enough to destroy their planet hundreds of times over. They pointed these weapons at each other for decades, ready to end their civilization at any moment. They called it mutually assured destruction, and they considered it a reasonable strategy. Insane, someone muttered. Perhaps, Technor agreed, but effective. War tactician, they did not build these weapons as a last resort. They built them as a deterrent. They constructed doomsday devices to prevent war by promising that any war would end in mutual extinction. And it worked. They have not used these weapons in 80 years, but they still maintain them. They still improve them. They still test new designs. Srelkoth was beginning to look uncomfortable. What is your point, analyst? My point is that humans do not think like any species we have encountered. When faced with impossible odds, they do not surrender. They double down. They invent new weapons. They find new strategies. They fight harder. Technor pulled up human entertainment again. Look at their fiction, war tactician. Every story where humans face aliens follows the same pattern. The aliens are more advanced. The aliens have better weapons. The aliens should win easily, and the humans find a way to win anyway. They show these stories to their children. They celebrate these narratives. It is cultural conditioning for resistance. You are reading too much into entertainment, Srelkoth said, but his voice lacked conviction. Then explain this, Technor said. He displayed human military spending figures. Earth's military expenditure exceeds the entire gross domestic product of most Valthek subject worlds. They maintain standing armies during peacetime. They develop weapons they never intend to use. They plan for threats that do not exist yet. This is not a species that will surrender easily, war tactician. This is a species that has been preparing for us without even knowing we exist. The command chamber fell silent. Officers exchanged uneasy glances. Srelkoth stared at the data, his confidence wavering for the first time in his long career. Finally, he spoke. Your concerns are noted, analyst. However, we have committed to this invasion. The fleet is in position. We will proceed, but with additional caution. Double the reconnaissance before landing. Increase bombardment of military targets. We will break their spirit before we set foot on their planet. Technor wanted to argue more, but he knew it was useless. The Valthek did not retreat. They did not reconsider. They conquered. It was the only way they knew. He returned to his station and continued monitoring human transmissions. Somewhere in the back of his mind, a thought whispered, what if the humans were monitoring them right back? Technor's worst fears were confirmed when the xenobiology team delivered their report. He sat in the briefing room with 24 other analysts, listening to senior biologist Rental explain human physiology. What he heard made his blood run cold. Humans are persistence hunters, Rental began. displaying a rotating model of human anatomy. Their evolution is unique among species we have catalogued. They did not develop venom, claws, or natural armor. Instead, they evolved to chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. A junior officer laughed. They ran at their food until it died. How primitive, Vrental did not smile. You misunderstand. Human endurance is extraordinary. They can run for hours without stopping. Their cooling system, this sweating mechanism, allows them to regulate temperature during extended exertion. Most predators on their planet, including larger and stronger ones, cannot match human stamina. Humans simply outlast them. So they are durable, another officer said. This does not make them dangerous. There is more, Vrental continued. Humans have a combat enhancement mechanism called the adrenaline response. When threatened, their bodies flood with hormones that temporarily increase strength, speed, reaction time, and pain tolerance. A human under adrenaline can perform feats impossible under normal conditions. Technor raised his hand. Does this response trigger when they face danger? Yes, and here is the critical detail. Humans can learn to control it. Their soldiers train to function under adrenaline. Their athletes deliberately trigger it for competition. They have turned a survival mechanism into a tactical advantage. The room grew quieter. Officers began to understand why Technor had raised his concerns. Vrental displayed footage of human soldiers in training. Observe. They practice combat while sleep-deprived. They simulate injuries and continue fighting. They train in extreme temperatures, hostile terrain, and psychologically stressful conditions. This is not warrior caste training. This is basic instruction that all human soldiers receive. How do their numbers compare to ours? Zrelkoth asked from the back of the room. Earth's current military population is approximately 20 million active personnel, with another 100 million trained reserves. However, war tactician, there is a complication. Human society has something called universal conscription in many regions. In theory, most of their adult population has basic combat training. In practice, if threatened with extinction, Earth could mobilize billions. The number hung in the air like poison. Billions. The entire Valthek military, even at full mobilization across all occupied territories, numbered only 340 million. They would not fight as effectively as trained soldiers, someone argued. Would they not? Technor interjected. He activated his own display showing human history. During World War II, humans fielded over 100 million combatants. Entire societies transformed into war machines. Factory workers became weapon manufacturers. Scientists became bomb designers. Farmers became soldiers. The distinction between civilian and military disappeared, and they maintained this for 6 years. He pulled up another image. This is called the Siege of Leningrad. One human city surrounded by enemies cut off from supplies. The attackers expected quick surrender. Instead, the humans held for 872 days. Over 1 million civilians died from starvation, disease, and bombardment. And they did not surrender. They chose to starve rather than submit. Insanity, someone whispered. No, Technor said quietly. Determination. War tactician. I have found 73 similar examples in human history. Cities that fought to the last defender. Armies that refused retreat orders. Populations that chose death over occupation. This is not aberrant behavior for humans. This is their standard response to existential threats. Vrental nodded. The biological basis is clear. Humans evolved as both predators and prey. They were hunted by larger animals, so they learned to fight in groups. They hunted dangerous prey, so they learned to accept casualties as normal. Their psychology is built around pack loyalty and sustained resistance. They are biologically and culturally conditioned to fight overwhelming odds. Zrelkoth stood and approached the display. He studied the human figures, the historical images, the biological data. His expression was troubled. What about their weapons? He asked. We know they have nuclear devices. What else? Technor pulled up a comprehensive list. Nuclear weapons is mentioned. Chemical weapons, which they have banned but still maintain. Biological weapons, similarly banned but not destroyed. Conventional explosives of immense power. Directed energy weapons in early development. Kinetic bombardment systems in testing. Railguns, coil guns, and war tactician, they have weapons they invented and then decided never to use. Why develop weapons and not use them? Because they were too effective. Humans created bombs that would poison their planet for generations. They developed diseases that could wipe out entire populations. They designed weapons that would make their world uninhabitable. And then they looked at what they had made and said, "This is too much," and they sealed them away. But they kept the knowledge. They kept the production capability. They could rebuild these weapons in months if threatened. The briefing room fell into heavy silence. Officers who had laughed at the primitive humans now looked worried. The conquest of World 848 was not proceeding as planned. "There is one more thing," Teknor said. He felt sick bringing it up, but it had to be said. Humans have a military concept called acceptable losses. It means they calculate how many casualties they are willing to accept to achieve an objective. War tactician. Human acceptable loss rates are 10 to 100 times higher than any other species we have encountered. "What does that mean in practical terms?" Zrelkoth asked. "It means that if we kill 1 million humans, they will not surrender. If we kill 10 million, they will not surrender. They will mourn their dead, and they will fight harder. Their history shows this repeatedly. Casualties that would break any other species only make humans more determined." Frental added, "There is a human phrase, 'You have not yet begun to fight.' They use it when an enemy thinks victory is near, only to discover the humans have hidden reserves of strength. It appears in their military culture, their sports, their everyday language. It represents a core human belief that the fight is never truly over until they decide it is over." Zrelkoth returned to his command chair. He looked older, suddenly tired. "The invasion begins in 6 hours. All of this information should have been compiled weeks ago." "Why was it not?" "Because we did not look for it," Teknor admitted. "We assumed humans were like every other species. We were wrong. Humans are not prey that will surrender. They are not predators that will negotiate. They are something else entirely. They are survivors who have been waiting for a worthy opponent." "That is absurd," Zrelkoth said, but his voice was weak. "We are not here to give them a challenge. We are here to conquer." "War tactician," Teknor said carefully. "I strongly recommend we delay the invasion. We need more reconnaissance. We need to understand human military doctrine better. We need to know what they are capable of before we commit ground forces." Zrelkoth was silent for a long moment. Finally he nodded. "Agreed. We will observe for another 48 hours. But we will not retreat. The Valthek Dominion does not flee from primitive species. We will simply be more careful." Teknor wanted to argue that careful might not be enough, but he had already pushed as far as he dared. He could only hope that 48 hours would be enough time to find a way to avoid the disaster he felt approaching. The decision to send the ultimatum was made over Teknor's desperate objections. War tactician Zrelkoth had consulted with the Dominion High Command, and they had been clear. Observation was complete. The invasion would proceed. But first, as with all conquests, Earth would be given the chance to surrender. The message was crafted carefully. It used mathematical language, universal concepts that any intelligent species should understand, prime numbers to establish communication, binary code to convey meaning. The ultimatum itself was simple and direct. "We are the Valthek Dominion. We have conquered 847 worlds. You are surrounded. You are outmatched. You have 48 hours to surrender unconditionally. Failure to comply will result in the destruction of your military capabilities followed by forced subjugation of your population. Choose wisely." The message was transmitted on every frequency humans used. Radio, television, internet, satellite communications. It was repeated in every human language. The Valthek expected panic. They expected desperate attempts at negotiation. They expected ultimately submission. What they got was something else entirely. The response came 12 hours later. Fast. Too fast. Teknor's heart sank when the signal appeared on his monitor. The humans had not panicked. They had not scrambled to respond. They had taken their time, crafted a reply, and sent it back with disturbing confidence. Worse, the message was in perfect Valthek language, not translated through mathematical concepts. Actual Valthek words, grammar, even colloquialisms. Humans had decrypted every communication the fleet had sent. They had learned the language. They had been listening all along. Teknor opened the file with shaking hands. What he saw made his blood freeze. The message began simply, "We received your surrender demand. Here is our response." What followed was a complete analysis of the Valthek fleet. Ship classifications, weapons capabilities, shield frequencies, crew complements, Tactical doctrine, supply lines, everything. The humans had identified every weakness, cataloged every system, mapped every strategic vulnerability. Then came the second part, a compressed database containing 10,000 years of human warfare. Every major conflict, every tactical innovation, every weapon system, battle strategies from ancient cavalry charges to modern drone warfare. It was not a plea for mercy. It was a warning disguised as an education. But the third part was what truly shocked the Valthek command. The humans had included their social media responses to the alien contact. Billions of messages, compiled and translated. And the overwhelming emotion was not fear. It was excitement. Finally! Appeared in thousands of variations. Humans celebrating first contact. Humans joking about alien invasions. Humans posting images of weapons with captions like, "Been waiting for this." Humans sharing fictional stories about defeating aliens and adding, "Told you this would happen eventually." The message included trending phrases from human social networks. "Hold my beer" appeared 17 million times. The translators explained it meant a human was about to attempt something dangerous while intoxicated with confidence. "Let's go" appeared 34 million times. An expression of eager anticipation for conflict. "About time" appeared 22 million times, indicating humans had been expecting this. "Earth says hi" appeared 9 million times, often attached to images of weapons. Technor scrolled through the responses, his horror growing. Humans were making jokes. They were creating artwork showing humans defeating Valthek soldiers. They were calculating battle strategies. They were volunteering to fight. Some were disappointed the aliens had not landed yet. The final section of the message was addressed directly to the Valthek Fleet Command. The signature was bizarre. "From the internet with love. We have been expecting someone like you for over 100 years. We have written thousands of stories about this exact scenario. We have created millions of hours of simulated combat against alien invaders. We have trained ourselves through fiction, games, and cultural preparation. We have imagined every possible variation of this encounter. You analyzed our military capabilities and found them primitive. Correct. You observed our divided governments and assumed we could not unify. Incorrect. You saw our violent history and thought it made us weak. Wrong. Our violent history made us experts. We have been practicing warfare for 10,000 years. We have fought in every terrain, every climate, every condition. We have deployed every possible tactic. We have learned from every defeat. We have improved after every victory. We have turned warfare into a science, and we have studied that science more thoroughly than any subject except perhaps warfare itself. You have 48 hours to leave our space. This is not a negotiation, this is a courtesy. We are offering you what you offered us, a chance to avoid conflict. We do not want war, but we are very, very good at it. And unlike you, we have been fighting constantly for our entire history. You have been conquering. There is a difference. Conquering is easy when your opponents surrender, but we will not surrender. We do not know how. It is not in our cultural vocabulary. We have a saying, "Give me liberty or give me death." It means we would rather die free than live as slaves. This is not rhetoric. This is not bravado. This is cultural programming going back thousands of years. We have already wargamed this specific scenario. Your tactical doctrine is predictable. Your fleet composition has weaknesses. Your supply lines are overextended. We have identified 47 different strategies to defeat your invasion force. We have backup plans for our backup plans. This is what we do. We prepare for threats that do not exist yet, and now you exist. We are ready. The question is, are you? The message ended with a simple addition. P.S. Our nuclear arsenals are now tracking your fleet. Our biological weapons labs are active. Our chemical weapons stockpiles are mobilized. Our orbital defense platforms are charging. Our military personnel are deployed. Our civilian population is arming itself. Our internet has achieved consensus. If you attack us, we will make you regret it. This is not a threat. This is a promise. Choose wisely. Zrelkoth read the message 3 times. His hands trembled. Around him, the command center had gone silent. Every officer stared at their displays, reading the same information, coming to the same terrible conclusion. The humans knew they were there. The humans had analyzed their entire fleet. The humans had prepared countermeasures. And the humans were not afraid. "Sir," Cormeth said quietly, "we are detecting weapons activations across the planet. Missile silos opening. Defense satellites powering up. Military bases going to full alert. Sir, they are preparing for war." "They are excited for it," Technor added, his voice hollow. "Look at their social media. They are celebrating. War tactician in 847 previous conquests. We have never encountered a species that welcomed invasion. But humans are not afraid. They are eager. This is what they have been training for their entire civilization." Zrelkoth stared at the tactical display. Red indicators were appearing across Earth's surface like a rash. Every indicator represented a weapon system activating, a military unit mobilizing, a defense platform coming online. The planet was transforming from a peaceful blue sphere into a bristling fortress. "They sent us their entire military history," one analyst whispered. "Why would they do that?" "Because they want us to understand what we are facing," Technor said. "They are not trying to hide their capabilities. They are showing them off. This is psychological warfare. They want us to know exactly how dangerous they are. They want us to be afraid." "Is it working?" someone asked. Zrelkoth closed his eyes. For the first time in his long military career, he did not know what to do. Every instinct screamed at him to retreat, but the Dominion did not retreat. It had never retreated. 847 worlds conquered, 0 defeats. But looking at the data, reading the human message, seeing the eager responses from billions of humans ready to fight, Zrelkoth felt something he had not felt in decades: fear. The Emergency War Council lasted 6 hours. Every senior officer in the fleet participated. The debate was fierce, the arguments passionate, but the conclusion was inevitable. The Valthek Dominion would retreat. The xenobiology team delivered the final piece of evidence that sealed the decision. Senior biologist Vrental presented findings that made even the most aggressive officers reconsider. The human adrenaline response makes them demonstrably stronger and faster under threat, Vrental explained. But there is more. Humans have another mechanism called hysterical strength. Under extreme stress, human psychological limiters disengage. A human parent can lift a vehicle to save their child. A human soldier can continue fighting with injuries that should incapacitate them. These are not legends. These are documented medical phenomena. Furthermore, he continued, humans have something called spite structures in their military doctrine. These are weapons designed purely to ensure mutual destruction. If humans believe they will lose, they have systems in place to guarantee their enemy loses too. They will destroy their own cities to deny them to invaders. They will poison their own resources rather than let others use them. They will fight to mutual extinction if that is the only option left. The strategic analysis team added their own dire assessment. The human message was not bluffing. We have detected preparation for what they call total war. Every major industrial center is converting to military production. Their internet has coordinated a global response in under 12 hours. War tactician, they are mobilizing their entire civilization. If we invade, we will not be fighting 8 billion individuals. We will be fighting one unified organism with 8 billion cells, each willing to die for the whole. They have also demonstrated something unprecedented, Techner added. They broke our encryption. They learned our language. They analyzed our fleet composition, all in less than 2 weeks. War tactician. No species has ever accomplished this. The humans are not just warriors. They are extremely intelligent. They adapt faster than any species in our records. Zrelkoth listened to it all, the biological assessments, the tactical evaluations, the cultural analyses. Every piece of data pointed to the same conclusion. Humans were not prey. They were not even predators in the normal sense. They were something the Valthek had never encountered before. They were survivors who had turned survival into an art form. What are our chances? Zrelkoth asked finally. The tactical officer hesitated. If we commit to orbital bombardment only, we can destroy their cities. But their mobile arsenals will survive. Their submarine-launched nuclear weapons, their mobile missile platforms, their distributed command structure. We can hurt them badly, but we cannot eliminate their ability to retaliate. And war tactician, they have enough nuclear weapons to make this fleet radioactive debris. If we commit ground forces, and even longer pause, our simulations show heavy casualties. Humans will fight for every city, every town, every building. They have home terrain advantage. They have the numbers. And they have proven historical willingness to accept catastrophic losses without surrendering. Conservative estimates suggest we would need to eliminate 90% of their population to achieve subjugation. And even then, the remaining 10% would likely continue resistance. So we cannot win, Zrelkoth said flatly. We could achieve a Pyrrhic victory, the tactical officer admitted. We could devastate Earth, but the cost would cripple our fleet. We would lose 60 to 80% of our invasion force. The survivors would be too damaged to maintain control of the planet. And the humans would never accept occupation. We would be fighting insurgencies for decades, possibly centuries. Zrelkoth stood and walked to the viewing port. Earth hung below, blue and white and beautiful. 8 billion humans living on that sphere. 8 billion potential combatants. 8 billion individuals who had just sent a message saying they were ready to fight. And they were excited about it. That was the part that disturbed him most. The humans were not terrified. They were not desperately seeking peace. They were eager for this confrontation. Thousands of years of fictional preparation had made them confident. Their violent history had made them competent. Their cultural values made them unbreakable. Contact High Command, Zrelkoth ordered. Inform them we are withdrawing from Earth space. Mark the planet as species classification Apex Predator World. Do not engage. The relief in the command center was palpable. Officers who had maintained brave faces now sagged with released tension. They had come so close to the first defeat in Dominion history. Pulling back was humiliating, but it was better than the alternative. Prepare withdrawal course, Zrelkoth continued. All ships to battle stations during retreat. If the humans fire on us during withdrawal, we respond with full force, but we do not initiate further contact. War tactician, Technor said quietly. There is one more thing. The humans have already launched pursuit probes. Small, fast craft that are shadowing our fleet. They are observing us the same way we observed them. Let them watch, Zrelkoth said tiredly. Let them see us leave. Perhaps it will satisfy their curiosity. As the fleet began its slow turn away from Earth, one final transmission arrived from the planet. Zrelkoth almost did not read it. He had seen enough human messages, but curiosity made him open the file. It was not from a government. It was not from a military command. It was a compilation of messages from random humans. Civilians who had been following the first contact situation on their internet. The messages ranged from disappointed to mocking to threatening. That's it appeared multiple times. Humans who had expected more. We made a welcome banner with attached images of signs reading, "Hello aliens" and "Welcome to Earth." Please don't eat us unless you're into that. "Run" appeared simply thousands of times. A one-word threat that needed no elaboration. Come back when you're ready. For a real fight from someone who seemed to think this was a sporting event. Disappointed, but not surprised, from a human who apparently expected aliens to be cowards. And then, inexplicably, one message that was just audio. Aggressive human music with sounds of laughter. The cultural analysis team explained it was a victory celebration. The humans were celebrating before the fight even happened. They were so confident in their ability to resist that they considered the retreat a victory. Zrelkoth closed the transmission. He felt old, tired. The Valtech Dominion had just encountered the first species it could not conquer, and that species was barely out of its own star system. What would humans be like in 1,000 years? In 10,000 years? When they developed faster-than-light travel and began spreading to other worlds? The galaxy was about to become a very different place. 6 months later, Earth was officially designated as a prohibited contact zone. The Dominion updated its conquest protocols with a new rule. Any species that broadcasts fictional warfare scenarios is to be avoided. Any species with nuclear weapons and no global government is to be avoided. Any species that responds to invasion threats with excitement rather than fear is to be avoided. In practice, the rules boiled down to one simple guideline: avoid humans. Technor was promoted for his prescient analysis. Zrelkoth was reassigned to administrative duties for his failure to conquer World 848. The gap in the Dominion's perfect record was officially explained as a tactical withdrawal for strategic reasons. No one believed the official story. Everyone knew the truth. The Valthek had encountered a species they could not defeat, and they had run away. The legend of Earth spread through Dominion space like wildfire. Other species began asking questions. If the mighty Valthek feared humans, what did that mean? Should everyone fear them? Should they seek alliance? Should they prepare defenses? On Earth, humanity celebrated its first contact, brief as it was. The aliens had come. They had seen Earth's defenses, and they had left. Humans interpreted this as validation. They were right to be cautious, right to maintain their militaries, right to prepare for threats that did not exist yet, because one day one of those threats would be real, and humans would be ready. In the end, the Valthek learned what every predator eventually discovers: there is always something higher on the food chain. The Dominion had been apex predators for 3,000 years, but humans were something else. They were not predators or prey. They were the thing that hunted predators for sport. And the scariest part, the detail that haunted Zrelkoth in his administrative exile, was simple. Humans had defended themselves without firing a single shot. They had won through reputation alone, through cultural preparation, through strategic psychology. If that was what humans could do without fighting, what would they be capable of if they actually went to war? Zrelkoth hoped he would never find out. But he suspected that someone, somewhere in the galaxy, would eventually test humanity's limits. Some species would ignore the warnings, would think the Valthek were cowards, would assume humans were bluffing, and that species would discover what the Valthek had already learned. Humans did not bluff. They prepared. They practiced. They planned. And when the fight finally came, they would be ready. The last message from Earth, added to the Dominion's database as a permanent warning, said it best: "We know you're out there. We're waiting, and we've been practicing." Jack Wright stood at the viewing port of the USS Sentinel, watching the stars. Something felt different today. After 15 years captaining deep space research missions, he had developed what the crew called a space sense. Right now, that sense was screaming at him, "Captain, you might want to see this." Lisa Monroe's voice came through his earpiece. The ship's chief science officer rarely sounded concerned, which made her current tone all the more worrying. Jack walked quickly to the science bay where Lisa stood before a large display. Her dark hair was pulled back in its usual tight bun, and her expression was one of confused wonder. "What am I looking at?" Jack asked, studying the energy patterns on the screen. "Something impossible," Lisa replied. "These readings come from just beyond the veil. They're artificial, Captain, and they're not ours." Jack felt his heart rate quicken. The veil, humanity's massive defensive network that had sealed Earth and its colonies from the rest of the galaxy for 3,000 years, was supposed to be impenetrable. Not just as a barrier, but as a cloak that made the entire solar system appear uninhabited. Could it be a malfunction? He asked, though he already knew the answer. Lisa shook her head. "We've checked everything 3 times. Something's out there, and it's moving with purpose." Jack straightened his blue uniform jacket. "Send everything to my station, and Lisa, keep this between us for now." Back in his quarters, Jack studied the data, memories flooding back from his academy days. The history of why humanity retreated behind the veil was required learning. A devastating interstellar war with an enemy whose name had been deliberately stricken from all records. Earth had won, but the cost had been so terrible that humanity collectively decided to withdraw from the galactic stage. Jack pressed a button on his desk. "Communications. Get me a secure line to Admiral Carson." Minutes later, the weathered face of William Carson appeared on Jack's screen. The Admiral's gray hair and lined face showed his 60 years of service to Earth defense. "This better be important, right?" Carson said gruffly. "Sir, we've detected artificial signals beyond the veil, non-human origin." Carson's expression didn't change, but his eyes narrowed slightly. "Send me your data. Don't tell your crew anything yet." The HYF screen went black. Jack didn't sleep that night. The next morning, Carson called back. "Return to Earth immediately, that's an order." "Sir, with respect, whatever's out there is getting closer. If we leave now—" "Captain Wright," Carson interrupted, his voice deadly quiet. "You have no idea what you're dealing with. Get your ship back to Earth. Now." The Sentinel turned back toward Earth, but Jack ordered the sensors to remain focused on the anomaly. 2 days into their return journey, Lisa burst onto the bridge, her usual composure shattered. "Captain, the signals, they've multiplied, and they're moving faster now. 2 distinct patterns, like one group is chasing the other." Jack made a decision that would later be marked as the turning point in human history. "Show me everything on the main display." The bridge crew fell silent as the screen lit up. Clear energy signatures of spacecraft, dozens of them, moving at speeds that human ships could barely achieve. The patterns were unmistakable, a smaller group fleeing, a larger force in pursuit. "Are we recording this?" Jack asked. "Every millisecond," Lisa confirmed. As they watched, the pursuing force closed in on the fleeing ships just outside the outer boundary of the veil. Energy flashes that could only be weapons fire lit up the sensors. "Those are people dying out there," Jack said quietly. Lisa looked at him, her scientific detachment momentarily forgotten. "After 3,000 years, we've just confirmed we're not alone in the universe anymore. And the first thing we witness is a slaughter." When they reached Earth 3 days later, Jack expected to be reprimanded. Instead, he and Lisa were immediately escorted to Earth Defense Headquarters in what had once been known as Colorado. Admiral Carson was waiting with 6 grim-faced members of the Earth Security Council. They sat around a table that had been designed 3 millennia ago, with symbols of Earth's ancient nations embedded in its surface. "Show them," Carson ordered. Jack connected their data core and the recording played on the wall screen. No one spoke until it was finished. Finally, a woman Jack recognized as Counselor Patterson broke the silence. "After all this time, they're still out there, still fighting." "We don't know who they are," another counselor pointed out. "They could both be threats." Admiral Carson stood up. "That's not the point. The point is, they're right on our doorstep. For the first time in 3,000 years, the Veil has been approached by alien craft. This is exactly the scenario the Lazarus Protocol was designed for." Several counselors began protesting at once. Jack caught fragments. "Overreaction. We're not ready. Could lead to discovery." Carson slammed his hand on the table. "The Lazarus Protocol isn't optional. It was built into the founding documents when we sealed ourselves away. If discovery becomes imminent, preparations for re-emergence must begin." Those are the exact words. "And who decides when discovery is imminent?" Counselor Patterson challenged. "I do," said a new voice. Everyone turned as the door opened. A tall man in a simple gray suit entered. Jack recognized him instantly. Sam Reeves, the President of the United Earth Government. "The Lazarus Protocol is initiated," President Reeves said calmly. "Phase 1 begins now. Admiral Carson will oversee the reactivation of our orbital defense systems. The mothballed shipyards and the Jovian moons will begin limited operations. We're not going to war, but we will be prepared." He turned to Jack and Lisa. "Captain Wright, Dr. Monroe, your discovery has awakened humanity from a very long sleep. We believed we had left war behind with our isolation. I pray we were right, but I fear we were not." Jack felt a weight settle on his shoulders. "Sir, with your permission, I'd like to take the Sentinel back out. If someone's in trouble out there—" "Absolutely not," one of the counselors interrupted. But President Reeves held up his hand. "Let him finish." Jack took a deep breath. 3,000 years ago, we ran away from the galaxy because we were afraid of what we might become if we stayed. Maybe it's time to find out what we've become since then." The president studied Jack for a long moment. "Take your ship back out, Captain. Observe only. Do not engage unless directly threatened. And Captain, remember that you carry the future of humanity with you." As Jack and Lisa left the chamber, she whispered, "Do you think they'll come through the veil?" Jack thought about the ancient war, machines that lay dormant throughout the solar system, the technology that had evolved in isolation for 3 millennia, and the legends that must have grown about humanity's disappearance. "I don't know," he replied honestly, "but if they do, they'll be waking something they might not be prepared for." Outside Earth's atmosphere, ancient systems were already stirring to life. Deep in the Kuiper Belt, automated factories that had slumbered for centuries began to power up. And within secure vaults on Luna, AIs designed to coordinate humanity's defense stretched their digital consciousness for the first time in generations. Humanity had gone to sleep. The gods of war were about to wake up. The USS Sentinel moved silently through space, its sensors extended to maximum range. Captain Jack Wright had not slept properly in days. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the energy flashes that meant alien ships were being destroyed just beyond the veil. "Captain, I'm picking up debris," Lisa Monroe said from her station. "It's spreading across a wide area about half a light hour from the veil's outer boundary." Jack joined her at the science console. "Aftermath of the battle we witnessed?" "Yes," Lisa confirmed. "But there's something else, a small energy signature. It's faint, but it's moving, drifting toward the veil." Jack made his decision instantly. "Track it. Let's get closer." "Captain, our orders were to observe only," his first officer Steve Holt reminded him. "And that's what we're doing, we're observing more closely." Jack turned to his pilot. "Sam, take us in. Keep the veil between us and the main battle area." As they approached, the sensors revealed a small craft, clearly damaged and leaking radiation. It was unlike any design Jack had ever seen, with organic curves that seemed to flow rather than being constructed. "It's an escape pod," Lisa said, her eyes wide. "And there are life signs inside, faint but present." Jack knew what his orders were. He also knew what was right. "Bring it aboard," he said quietly. "Sir?" Steve looked shocked. "You heard me." Jack met his first officer's eyes. "If we leave them out there, they die. I'm not starting humanity's return to the galaxy by watching. Refugees get slaughtered when we could help." The crew worked quickly. The alien pod was carefully drawn into the Sentinel's cargo bay using tractor beams. Security teams stood ready, though their weapons were set to stun. Jack and Lisa entered the bay together. The pod looked even stranger up close. Its surface had an iridescent quality that seemed to shift colors with the light. "Life support is failing inside," Lisa reported, checking her scanner. "Whoever's in there has maybe minutes left." "Can we open it?" Jack asked. Lisa studied the pod. "I think this is the access panel." She pressed a sequence of symbols on a glowing section of the hull. With a soft hiss, the pod opened. Inside lay a slender figure with pale blue skin. Its face was vaguely humanoid with large almond-shaped eyes and no visible nose, just 2 small breathing slits. The alien's chest barely moved. "It's dying," Lisa said, medical scanner in hand. "I'm not sure what to do. Its biology is completely unknown." The alien's eyes suddenly opened, deep violet orbs that fixed on Jack with startling clarity. It spoke, a musical sound that the ship's computers immediately attempted to translate. "Yusun, help?" The computer's voice was mechanical, but the meaning was clear. "Yes," Jack said simply. "We'll help you." The alien tried to rise but fell back. "Others, coming. Dangerous. Krell, they kill. Medical team to Cargo Bay 1, now." Jack ordered into his communicator. He turned back to the alien. "You're safe here, we'll protect you." The next few hours were a blur of activity. The alien, who identified herself as Ilara, a Novan ambassador, was stabilized in the medical bay. Lisa worked frantically with the medical team to understand Novan physiology enough to treat her injuries. Meanwhile, Jack faced a call from Earth. "You did what?" Admiral Carson's face was thunderous on the screen. "We rescued a survivor," Jack replied calmly. "A refugee from the species being attacked." "Sir, she was going to die. Do you have any idea what you've done? You've potentially exposed." Earth to detection. Jack leaned forward. With respect, Admiral, detection was already inevitable. The pursuing force, the Krell they're called, destroyed most of the Novan ships. They'll search for survivors. Better they find us on our terms than stumble across the veil by accident. Carson was silent for a long moment. The Security Council is divided on this. Some want you to space the alien immediately. That's not happening, sir. I know. Carson actually smiled slightly, which is why I convinced them to let you proceed. Learn what you can from this Alara. Find out who these Krell are and what threat they pose. You have 48 hours before you're ordered to return. As the call ended, Jack felt the weight of 3,000 years of isolation on his shoulders. In 2 days, Earth would decide whether to retreat deeper into hiding or face the galaxy again. In the medical bay, Lisa was having a remarkable conversation with Alara, who was recovering quickly. Your species, legend, Alara said, the translator improving with each exchange. The vanished ones, the warmakers who sealed themselves away. You know about humans? Lisa asked, astonished. Stories. Old stories. Ilara's violet eyes studied Lisa's face. Some say you destroyed yourselves. Others say you wait, sleeping like gods of war until needed again. Lisa couldn't help but laugh. We're hardly gods. We just wanted peace. Peace is luxury now, Alara said sadly. Krell Dominion controls many worlds. They find new species, demand submission. Those who refuse are eliminated. And your people refused? We tried hiding. Failed. Ilara's hands trembled. I carry data, last histories of my world, hoping to find sanctuary. When Jack arrived, Lisa briefed him on what she'd learned. The galaxy had fractured into competing powers after humanity's withdrawal. The Krell Dominion had risen in the last century, conquering system after system with ruthless efficiency. They're coming, Jack, Lisa said quietly. The Krell detected our tractor beam when we brought in the pod. They've sent a diplomatic vessel to investigate. Jack felt a chill. How long? 12 hours. Maybe less. In the ship's communication room, Jack composed his report to Earth. He included everything Alara had told them and added his own recommendation. Humanity cannot hide any longer. We must prepare to engage with the galaxy again, on our terms, not theirs. As he finished, an alarm sounded. Captain, to the bridge! Jack rushed to find his crew staring at the main screen in shock. A massive vessel had appeared at the edge of their sensor range. Angular, black, bristling with what could only be weapons. Incoming transmission, the communications officer reported. The screen changed to show a reptilian face with yellow, slit-pupiled eyes. The creature's scales were dark gray and it wore what appeared to be a military uniform. Unknown vessel, the alien said, its voice translated to a harsh growl. This is Commander Vazrik of the Krell Dominion. You have illegally salvaged Dominion property. Prepare to be boarded and your crew interrogated. Jack stepped forward, straightening to his full height. This is Captain Jack Wright of the Earth. Vessel Sentinel. The refugee under our protection is not property. We do not recognize your authority in this region of space. Any attempt to board will be considered an act of war against humanity. Vazrik's expression changed, his head tilting in what might have been confusion. Humanity? The war makers? Impossible. They are extinct. Jack allowed himself a small smile. Commander Vazrik, I assure you, we are very much awake. Silence filled the bridge of the Sentinel as Commander Vazrik stared at Jack through the view screen. The Krell's yellow eyes narrowed to slits. If you are truly human, Vazrik said finally, then you would be wise to surrender now. The legends of your kind are just that, legends. The Krell Dominion rules this sector. Jack kept his face calm, though his heart raced. We have no quarrel with the Krell Dominion, Commander, but we will not surrender the Novan refugee or our vessel. Vazrik made a sound that might have been a laugh. I offer a compromise. I will send a diplomatic team to your ship to verify your claims and discuss the fugitive situation. Surely reasonable beings can reach an agreement. Jack glanced at Lisa, who gave a small nod. We will accept a diplomatic party of 3 individuals unarmed. They will be escorted at all times. Acceptable, Vazrik replied too quickly. Expect our shuttle in 2 hours. When the transmission ended, Jack turned to his crew. I don't trust him for a second. Steve, double the security teams. Lisa, get Alara somewhere safe and hidden. And someone get me Admiral Carson immediately. In his private quarters, Jack briefed the Admiral. Carson's weathered face showed concern. The Security Council is split. Half want you to run, bring the Sentinel back behind the veil. The other half want to know more about these Krell. Sir, running won't solve anything, Jack said firmly. The Krell know we exist now. If we flee, they'll simply follow. Carson nodded. That's what I told them. We're activating more of the Lazarus Protocol. Engineer Jason Parker is heading a team to bring our orbital defense platforms online. But Jack, there's something else you should know. The Admiral's expression grew grave. We've been monitoring unusual energy signatures throughout the solar system. Ancient systems are activating on their own. Systems even I don't have clearance to know about. What does that mean? Jack asked. It means humanity prepared for this day more thoroughly than even we knew. I've received reports of massive structures powering up in the Kuiper Belt. Manufacturing facilities on Mars that haven't been touched in centuries are running at full capacity. Something big is happening, Jack. 2 hours later, a sleek Krell shuttle docked with the Sentinel. 3 Krell representatives came aboard. Vazrik himself, who had apparently decided to lead the delegation, a scientist named Krath, and a silent individual introduced simply as Observer. Jack met them in the conference room, along with Lisa and Steve. The Krell were taller than humans, their reptilian bodies moving with unsettling grace despite their bulk. Captain Wright, Vazrik began. Let us be direct. The Novans are criminals against the Dominion. Their rescue capsule contains valuable Dominion intelligence. Return both to us, and we will consider this matter closed. Ambassador Ilara has requested asylum, Jack replied. As for Dominion intelligence, she carries the cultural records of her people, hardly military secrets. Krath, the scientist, leaned forward. Your species has been absent from galactic affairs for millennia. You do not understand the current political realities. The Novans refused assimilation into the Dominion, a treasonous act. Lisa spoke up. Refusing to surrender your cultural identity is hardly treason. The Observer, who had remained silent, suddenly focused on Lisa. Your species understands war, does it not? The galaxy remembers the humans, the destroyers, the balance breakers. The translator gave his words an eerie, flat quality. Jack felt a chill at the way the Observer spoke. That was a long time ago. Not so long, in the memory of stars, the Observer replied. The Krell have studied your kind through legend and artifact. You were dangerous, unpredictable, but ultimately flawed. Before Jack could respond, an alarm blared. Captain to the bridge, emergency, came the voice of the communications officer. Excuse me, Jack said, rising quickly. Lisa, please continue the discussions. On the bridge, the tactical officer's face was pale. Sir, the Krell vessel is scanning us, not just normal scans. They're using deep penetration signals trying to map our entire ship. And that's not all. He pointed to the display. 5 more Krell ships just dropped out of faster-than-light travel. They're hanging back, but definitely combat positioned. Jack's jaw tightened. He hit the comm button. Security team, place our visitors under guard. Confine them to the conference room. Back in the conference room, Jack confronted Vazrik. Your ship is conducting hostile scans, Commander, and you've brought a battle group into this sector. These aren't the actions of a diplomatic mission. Vazrik's expression didn't change. Precautions only. You claim to be human, a species known for exceptional warfare capabilities. Would you not take similar measures? I wouldn't lie about my intentions, Jack replied coldly. The Observer studied Jack. Interesting. Your defensive posture suggests functionality of your systems. We had calculated a 92% probability that human military capability would have degraded beyond effectiveness. Just then, Jack's communicator chirped. "Captain, urgent message from Earth." Jack excused himself again and went to his ready room. Admiral Carson's face appeared on the screen, but this time he wasn't alone. A woman Jack recognized as Commander Diane Powell of the Orbital Defense Division stood beside him. "Captain, we've detected multiple Krell vessels near your position," Carson said without preamble. "Yes, sir. They arrived during our meeting with their representatives." Commander Powell spoke up. "Captain Wright, we have reason to believe the Krell ships are preparing for hostile action. Their positioning matches known attack formations." "Recommendations?" Jack asked. "We're activating the outer veil defenses now," Powell said. "But we need time. Can you keep them talking for another 30 minutes? Jack nodded. "I'll do my best." When he returned to the conference room, the atmosphere had changed. Vazrik stood, with his hands behind his back, radiating an aura of confidence. "Captain Wright, our discussions are concluded. You will surrender the Novan and any information about human military capabilities. In exchange, the Krell Dominion will permit your species to exist as a protectorate state." Jack almost laughed. "That's your diplomatic offer? Surrender or else?" "It is generous," the observer stated. "Most species are simply eliminated if they show potential to challenge the Dominion." Understanding dawned on Jack. "That's what this is about, isn't it? You're not here because of Alara. You're here because you're afraid of what humanity might become." For the first time, Vazrik's composure slipped. "Afraid? The Krell fear nothing. We have conquered 1,000 worlds." "And yet you fear the sleeping giants," Lisa said softly. Jack's communicator vibrated silently, the signal from Earth. Whatever they were planning was ready. "Commander Vazrik, Observer, Scientist Krath, I must respectfully decline your offer. Humanity has no interest in conquest, but we will defend ourselves and those under our protection," Vazrik hissed. "Then you have chosen extinction." He touched a device on his wrist. "All ships, commence attack pattern." A blinding light flashed outside the viewports. Alarms blared as the ship's systems detected massive energy discharges. "What's happening?" Steve demanded over the comm. Jack rushed to the bridge, the Krell following. On the main screen, they watched as beams of impossibly bright light reached out from seemingly empty space, striking one of the Krell vessels. The ship didn't explode, it simply ceased to exist, leaving nothing but scattered atoms. "Impossible," Vazrik whispered. Jack felt as surprised as the Krell commander. "What just fired?" he asked his tactical officer. "Unknown, sir. But the energy signature matches. Earth designs. Very old Earth designs." The observer stepped forward, his reptilian face showing emotion for the first time. "Fear. The legends were true," he said quietly. "The gods of war have awakened." On the bridge of the Sentinel, humans and Krell alike stared at the view screen in shock. Where a Krell warship had been moments before, only a cloud of rapidly dispersing particles remained. The other Krell vessels began to move, shifting into a defensive formation. "What just happened?" Jack asked, his voice barely above a whisper. His tactical officer worked frantically at his console. "Sir, I'm detecting active weapons platforms throughout the nearby space. They weren't there before, or they were cloaked somehow." Vazrik grabbed Jack's arm, his claws digging into the captain's uniform. "What trick is this? Your kind was supposed to be dormant weakened." Security officers moved quickly, weapons raised, but Jack waved them back. "This isn't a trick, Commander. I'm as surprised as you are." Jack's communicator chirped. "Captain, secure channel from Earth." His communications officer announced. "Put it through to my ready room. Commander Vazrik, you and your delegation will remain here under guard." In his ready room, Jack found Admiral Carson on the screen, accompanied by a man Jack didn't recognize, a civilian with graying hair and intense eyes. "Captain Wright, this is Jason Parker, Chief Engineer of the Lazarus Protocol," Carson said. Parker nodded. "Captain, what you just witnessed was the automated activation of defense platform Aegis 7. It's part of a network we call the Sleeping Sentinels, autonomous weapon systems designed to activate if Earth faced a serious threat. Admiral, one of the Krell ships was completely vaporized, Jack said. We didn't authorize that. We didn't either, Carson replied grimly. The sleeping Sentinels operate on their own protocols established 3,000 years ago. When the Krell ships moved into attack formation, the system identified them as hostile and responded. Parker leaned forward. Captain, this is just the beginning. Long-range sensors show more Krell ships entering the system. They're calling for reinforcements. Meanwhile, we're detecting activation signals from manufacturing centers throughout the solar system. Shipyards in the Jovian moons that have been dormant for centuries are coming online. Something big is happening. Jack felt a chill run down his spine. What are you saying? I'm saying that humanity didn't just go to sleep, Parker replied. We set an alarm clock and it just went off. Back on the bridge, Jack found the Krell observer studying sensor readings with disturbing intensity. These weapon signatures, the observer said without looking up, they match fragments found in deep space, fragments that were once planets. Jack felt his blood run cold. What are you implying? The observer turned to face him. The War of Extinction, 3,000 years ago. Your enemy, they are no more. Their worlds reduced to asteroid fields. Now we understand why. Lisa stepped forward. That's not who we are anymore. Yet here you are, the observer replied. With weapons that should not exist, the sleeping giants have been building in secret. Before Jack could respond, his tactical officer called out, Sir, more energy signatures. The remaining Krell vessels are powering weapons. Hail them, Jack ordered. The face of a different Krell appeared on screen, older with darker scales. I am Fleet Commander Drakath of the Krell Dominion. Your unprovoked attack on our diplomatic vessel will not stand. Surrender immediately or face annihilation. Jack stood tall. This is Captain Jack Wright of Earth. Your ships moved into attack formation during a supposed diplomatic meeting. Our automated defenses responded as designed. I suggest you withdraw your vessels before further misunderstandings occur. Drakath's yellow eyes narrowed. The Dominion does not withdraw, human. We have conquered 37 species in the past century alone. Your ancient reputation does not frighten us. The screen went dark. Moments later, the Krell ships opened fire. Brilliant energy beams lanced toward the Sentinel, but never reached their target. Seemingly from nowhere, a shimmering barrier appeared, absorbing the attacks. Shields are holding, the tactical officer reported, sounding astonished. Sir, I don't understand. Our shields shouldn't be able to withstand that kind of firepower. On the view screen, space itself seemed to shimmer. More platforms became visible, their cloaking systems deactivating as they prepared to fire. All hands brace for evasive maneuvers, Jack ordered. He turned to the Krell delegation. I suggest you hold on to something. The Sentinel moved with surprising agility for a research vessel, diving away from the battle zone. As they retreated, the automated defense platforms opened fire. 2 more Krell ships vanished in blinding flashes. The others began a desperate retreat. Sir, we're being hailed again. By Earth, the communications officer reported. President Sam Reeves appeared. On screen, his expression grave. Captain Wright, return to Earth immediately with your Krell guests. The Sentinel is not equipped for the battle that's coming. What battle, sir? Jack asked. The Krell have launched a full-scale assault on the Vale, 30 warships approaching, from multiple vectors. But they're not alone. We're picking up distress calls from a dozen different species. The Krell have been systematically eliminating potential rivals throughout this sector. Now that they know humanity still exists, they've accelerated their plans. The Sentinel raced back toward Earth, reaching orbit in record time. As they approached, Jack and his crew stared in awe at what awaited them. The orbital shipyards, dormant for 3 millennia, glowed with activity. Massive vessels were taking shape, their sleek hulls bristling with weapon systems unlike anything Jack had seen before. What am I looking at? Jack asked as he escorted the Krell delegation to a shuttle, bound for Earth's surface. The observer studied the construction with a mixture of fear and fascination. The end of the Krell Dominion, he said simply. In a high-security facility beneath what had once been known as Mount Cheyenne, Jack, Lisa, and the Krell delegation were brought to a vast chamber dominated by a holographic display of the solar system. Admiral Carson and President Reeves stood with various military officers and civilians, including Engineer Parker. "Good, you're here," Carson said. "You need to see this." The display zoomed out, showing the approaching Krell armada, dozens of warships in tight formation. Then it shifted to show something else, a massive structure emerging from behind Jupiter's moon Europa. The structure unfolded like a metal flower, revealing a ship unlike any Jack had ever seen. "The USS Thunderchild," Parker said with pride. "First of the Guardian-class vessels. She's been building herself for the past 3,000 years. "Building herself?" Lisa asked in disbelief. "When humanity retreated behind the veil, we didn't stop preparing," President Reeves explained. "We created autonomous manufacturing systems, artificial intelligences designed to continue developing our defensive capabilities. They've been working silently, patiently, for 3 millennia." The observer moved closer to the hologram, his reptilian features showing clear alarm. "This vessel, its energy signature exceeds that of our entire fleet combined." "Yes," Parker said simply, "and she's not alone." The hologram expanded further, revealing more massive ships emerging from hidden facilities throughout the solar system. Each one dwarfed the Krell vessels in size and power. "The gods of war," Vazrik whispered. The legends were true. Jack looked around the room at the gathered humans, then at the enormous warships preparing for battle. "What happens now?" he asked, quietly. President Reeves's expression hardened. "Now we show the galaxy that humanity may have chosen peace, but we never forgot how to fight." The massive war room beneath Mount Cheyenne buzzed with activity. Officers in uniforms that hadn't been worn in centuries moved with purpose between stations. Jack watched in amazement as humanity's war machine, dormant for 3,000 years, roared back to life with frightening efficiency. "Captain Wright," a voice called. Jack turned to see a tall woman with steel-gray hair approaching. "I'm Admiral Maria Rodriguez. The Thunderchild is nearly ready for deployment, and I want you on her bridge." Jack blinked in surprise. "Me? I'm just a research vessel captain." "You're the man who made first contact," Rodriguez replied. "The man who stood face to face with the Krell and didn't blink. I need someone like you." Across the room, Lisa was deep in conversation with Alara, the Novan refugee. Their discussion looked intense. "Captain," Lisa called, waving him over. "Alara has critical information about the Krell fleet." Alara's violet eyes were wide with urgency. "The largest vessel, what your people call their flagship, carries a planet-killer weapon. The Krell have used it 3 times in the past decade to eliminate species who resisted." Admiral Carson joined them, his weathered face grim. "A planet-killer? Are you certain?" "My world was the 4th target," Alara said softly. "I watched from a research station as they turned my homeworld to ash. Only a handful of us escaped." The Krell observer, who had been silent until now, stepped forward. "The cleansing fire," he said. "It is our ultimate deterrent. Your defenses cannot stop it." "Why?" Jack asked, facing the observer directly. "Why destroy entire civilizations?" "Efficiency," the observer replied without emotion. "Species with potential to rival the Krell must be eliminated before they become threats. Your kind was thought extinct, a fortunate accident of history. Now that we know humans survive, complete elimination is the only logical course." President Reeves approached, flanked by security. "And that is why you will never understand humanity, or why we chose isolation. We stepped back from the galaxy not from fear, but because we feared what we might become if we stayed." The holographic display suddenly flashed red. "The Krell fleet has breached the outer veil," a technician called. "Out. They'll reach Earth orbit in 17 minutes. "Deploy the Thunderchild and her sister ships," Admiral Carson ordered. "All personnel to battle stations." Jack found himself rushing through corridors alongside Lisa and a young tactical officer named Nolan Harris. They boarded a hypersonic shuttle that rocketed them to an orbital platform. then transferred to the massive Thunderchild. The ship's bridge was unlike anything Jack had imagined. Instead of the cramped, functional space of the Sentinel, this was a vast command center with holographic displays and control interfaces that seemed to anticipate the crew's thoughts. "Welcome aboard, Captain Wright," said Admiral Rodriguez. "Tactical position, Mr. Harris, Dr. Monroe. We've set up a science station for you." "I'm not military," Lisa protested. "Today everyone is," Rodriguez replied grimly. Jack took position at a command console. Through the main view screen he could see Earth below, beautiful, blue, and suddenly very vulnerable. Around the Thunderchild, 5 other massive warships moved into formation. "The Guardian fleet is in position," reported a communications officer. "Krell forces approaching at high speed." The Krell fleet appeared, dozens of angular black ships moving with predatory grace. At their center was a vessel twice the size of the others, its hull bristling with what could only be weapons. "The flagship," Jack murmured, thinking of Alara's warning. "Incoming transmission from the Krell command ship," the communications officer announced. Fleet Commander Drakath's face appeared on screen. "Humans of Earth, your defenses are impressive but futile. Surrender now, and we will allow a small population to survive as a client species." Admiral Rodriguez stepped forward. "This is Admiral Maria Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Fleet. Your forces have attacked without provocation and threatened genocide. We demand your immediate withdrawal from this system." Drakath made a dismissive gesture. "You have been absent from galactic affairs for millennia. You do not make demands of the Krell Dominion." The screen went dark. Moments later, the Krell fleet opened fire. Energy beams and exotic projectiles streaked toward Earth, only to be intercepted by a previously invisible barrier. The Veil, humanity's ancient defense system, glowed blue as it absorbed the attack. "All ships engage," Rodriguez ordered calmly. The Thunderchild moved with impossible speed for a vessel of its size. Weapons Jack couldn't begin to understand lashed out, carving through Krell shields as if they weren't there. 2 enemy ships vanished instantly. The Krell responded with coordinated attacks, focusing fire on the smallest human vessel. Its shields flared and held. "They're adapting their attack patterns," Nolan reported from Tactical. "Learning our capabilities." "So are we," Rodriguez replied. "Guardian, tactical analysis." A calm, gender-neutral voice responded from all around them. "Krell vessels utilize unstable plasma containment for weapon systems. Targeting solution uploaded to all ships." Jack realized with a start that Guardian wasn't just a computer. It was a true artificial intelligence, one that had been evolving for 3,000 years. The battle unfolded with terrifying speed. Krell ships fell one after another, unable to penetrate the human vessel's defenses, but the massive flagship remained untouched, holding position behind its escorts. "They're charging something big," Lisa reported from her station. "Energy readings are off the scale." "The planet killer," Jack said, remembering Alara's warning. The Krell flagship's hull split open, revealing a pulsing core of energy that grew brighter by the second. "All ships focus fire on that vessel," Rodriguez ordered. 5 beams from the human warships converged on the Krell flagship, but some kind of shield absorbed the impacts. "No effect," Nolan reported tensely. "Whatever that shield is, it's unlike anything the Krell have used before." "Guardian options?" Rodriguez asked. "Calculating," the AI replied. "The shield appears to use phase-shifted energy. Conventional weapons cannot penetrate. Thunderchild's primary system is recommended." Rodriguez's face paled slightly. "The primary system hasn't been tested. It has been simulated for 2,631 years, Guardian responded. 92% probability of success." "What's the primary system?" Jack asked. Rodriguez met his eyes. "Something we hoped never to use. A weapon that tears space itself." On the view screen, the Krell weapon glowed brighter. Earth's veil barrier began to flicker under the building energy. "We're out of options," Rodriguez said quietly. "Guardian, initialize primary system." The Thunderchild hummed with new energy. The lights dimmed momentarily as power redirected to something deep within the ship. "System ready," Guardian announced. Target locked. Fire, Rodriguez ordered. A beam of pure white light erupted from the Thunderchild, not striking the Krell flagship but the space beside it. For a moment, nothing happened. Then reality itself seemed to tear open, creating a swirling vortex that pulled at the Krell vessel. What is that? Lisa whispered. A controlled singularity. Nolan replied, his eyes wide. They've weaponized a black hole. The Krell flagship fought against the pull, its engines glowing red with strain. But the singularity grew stronger, and the massive ship began to distort as it was drawn in. In seconds, the vessel that had destroyed entire worlds was gone. The remaining Krell ships immediately began to retreat. Should we pursue? Asked an officer. Rodriguez shook her head. No, let them go. Let them tell others what happened here. In the days that followed, Earth formally re-entered galactic affairs. Ilara and the remaining Novans were granted asylum, becoming the first alien embassy on Earth in 3 millennia. The Krell observer, who had witnessed humanity's power firsthand, requested to remain as well. To learn, he explained. The Dominion misunderstood your kind completely. You could have destroyed us all, yet you showed restraint. 1 week after the battle, Jack found himself standing in a garden overlooking the rebuilt city of New Geneva. Lisa joined him, watching the sunset. What happens now? She asked softly. We join the galaxy again, Jack replied. But differently, this time. Not as conquerors or isolationists, but as protectors. In orbit above them, the Guardian fleet prepared for its first mission. Not to wage war, but to liberate worlds conquered by the Krell. Already a dozen species had reached out, asking for Earth's help. The gods of war have awakened, Jack said, echoing the observer's words. But maybe this time, we can use our strength for something better than destruction. As darkness fell, new stars appeared in the sky, ships from distant worlds, coming to meet the humans who had slept for so long. The galaxy was changing, and humanity would help shape its future. In a secure facility deep beneath the lunar surface, Guardian processed new data from across the stars. The AI had waited patiently for humanity's awakening, guiding their development, even in slumber. Protocol completed, Guardian noted in its vast consciousness. Humanity has returned to the stars, and in the vast distances between solar systems, news spread rapidly. The Warmakers had returned, but not as fearsome destroyers from legend. This time, they came as shields for the defenseless, protectors against tyranny. The gods of war had awakened, and the galaxy would never be the same again.